You know what's wild? Back in 1859, a Scottish author wrote a book that basically invented the entire self-improvement industry as we know it today. Before Instagram quotes, before motivational podcasts, before life coaches were even a thing, Samuel Smiles wrote Self-Help, and it became such a massive phenomenon that it outsold every book in Victorian England except the Bible. This wasn't some fluffy feel-good stuff either. This was hardcore, practical wisdom about how ordinary people could transform their lives through nothing but their own effort, determination, and character. And here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Every single principle in this book is just as relevant today as it was over 160 years ago. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the book that started it all. Samuel Smiles opens this masterpiece with a revolutionary idea for his time, and honestly, it's still revolutionary today. He says that the real power to change your life doesn't come from government, does it come from institutions, doesn't come from your circumstances or your background. It comes from within you. It comes from self-help, which he defines as the spirit of genuine independence. Now, this might sound obvious to us today because we've been marinating in self-help culture our whole lives, but back then, this was radical thinking. Most people believed that your station in life was predetermined, that if you were born poor, you stayed poor, and that was just how things were. But Smiles looked around and saw something different. He saw men who had risen from absolutely nothing to achieve extraordinary things. And he realized that what separated these successful individuals from everyone else wasn't luck, wasn't privilege, and wasn't some special gift from the universe. It was their character, their work ethic, their persistence, and their willingness to help themselves instead of waiting for someone else to save them. The core philosophy Smiles presents is beautifully simple yet profoundly powerful. He argues that the function of government and external help should be to make it easy for people to help themselves, not to do everything for them. When you do too much for people, you actually make them weaker. When you solve all their problems, you rob them of the opportunity to develop strength, resilience, and capability. It's like if you tried to help a butterfly emerge from its cocoon by cutting it open. You might think you're being kind, but you're actually condemning that butterfly to weakness, because the struggle to break free is what pumps fluid into its wings and makes it strong enough to fly. Smiles goes hard on this point. He says that even the best institutions can never replace individual character and energy. You can have the best schools, the best laws, the best social programs in the world, but if the people don't have the internal drive to improve themselves, none of it matters. In fact, he argues that national progress is really just the sum of individual industry, energy, and uprightness. A country is only as strong as its citizens, and citizens are only as strong as their character. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Smiles starts unpacking what he means by character, and he's not talking about being a nice person or following rules. He's talking about something much deeper. Character, in his view, is human nature at its best. It's the combination of qualities that make someone not just successful, but worthy of success. It's integrity, perseverance, self-discipline, courage, and a commitment to doing what's right even when it's hard. And he makes this crucial distinction: character is more important than intellectual ability. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you lack character, you won't accomplish anything meaningful. On the flip side, someone with average intelligence but extraordinary character can achieve incredible things. Smiles provides example after example of men who weren't particularly brilliant or gifted, but who succeeded through sheer determination and force of will. One of the most powerful sections of the book deals with the importance of work in industry. Smiles basically says that work isn't something to be avoided or minimized. It's the very thing that gives life meaning and develops our capabilities. The men who achieve great things aren't the ones who try to find shortcuts or avoid effort. They're the ones who embrace hard work, who find joy in the doing, who understand that the process of striving is what makes you strong. He talks about how some of the greatest figures in history were known for their incredible work ethic. Michelangelo worked so intensely on the Sistine Chapel that he permanently damaged his eyesight. Newton was so absorbed in his work that he would forget to eat. Handel composed The Messiah in just 24 days, barely sleeping or taking breaks. These weren't people who waited for inspiration to strike or motivation to appear. They worked consistently and relentlessly, because that's what greatness requires. But Smiles is careful to point out that he's not talking about mindless drudgery. He's talking about purposeful work, work that you find meaningful, work that develops your abilities and contributes something to the world. He says that true happiness isn't found in leisure or entertainment, but in the satisfaction of accomplishment, in the feeling of having done something well and overcome obstacles to do it. This leads into one of the book's central themes, the power of perseverance. Smiles is absolutely obsessed with this idea that persistence trumps talent almost every time. He shares story after story of people who failed repeatedly before finally succeeding. Men who were rejected, ridiculed, ignored, and dismissed, but who kept going anyway because they believed in what they were doing. He tells the story of George Stephenson, the father of railways, who faced enormous opposition and mockery when he proposed his ideas. Experts told him it was impossible. Engineers said it wouldn't work, but Stephenson persisted, refined his designs, proved the doubters wrong, and ultimately revolutionized transportation. If he had given up after the first setback, or even the 10th, the world would look completely different today. Smiles argues that genius itself is really just patience and perseverance in disguise. What we call natural talent is often just the result of years of disciplined practice and refusal to quit. The difference between someone who achieves mastery and someone who remains mediocre ISN to usually ability, it's the willingness to keep working long after others have given up. He's got this great line where he says that it is not eminent talent that is required to ensure success in any pursuit, so much as purpose, not merely the power to achieve, but the will to labor energetically and perseveringly. Think about that. Purpose and will matter more than talent. That's incredibly liberating because it means success isn't reserved for some special class of gifted individuals. It's available to anyone willing to put in the work. The book then shifts to discussing the importance of self-discipline and self-control. Smiles argues that the ability to govern yourself is the foundation of all achievement. If you can't control your impulses, manage your time, and regulate your behavior, you'll never accomplish anything significant no matter how talented you are. He talks about how self-discipline is like a muscle that gets stronger with use. Every time you choose to do the difficult thing instead of the easy thing, every time you delay gratification, every time you stick to your commitments, even when you don't feel like it, you're building this internal strength that will serve you in every area of life. Smiles is particularly insistent on the importance of developing good habits early in life. He says that youth is the time when character is most malleable, when patterns are established that will persist for decades. The habits you form in your teens and 20s will largely determine the trajectory of your entire life. If you develop habits of industry, punctuality, honesty, and self-control when you're young, success becomes almost inevitable. If you develop habits of laziness, procrastination, and self-indulgence, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of struggle. But he's not fatalistic about it. He makes it clear that it's never too late to change, never too late to develop better habits and reform your character. It's harder when you're older, for sure, because patterns become more entrenched. But it's possible, and he provides examples of men who turned their lives around, in middle age or even later, through sheer determination to become better. One aspect of self-discipline that Smiles emphasizes heavily is the use of time. He's borderline militant about this. He argues that time is our most precious resource, and how we use it determines everything. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people isn't access to opportunities or special advantages, it's how they use their time. He points out that everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. The laborer has the same amount of time as the king. What varies is how that time is used. Successful people don't waste time on trivial pursuits or mindless entertainment. They're intentional about every hour, making sure their time is spent on things that move them toward their goals. Smiles shares examples of incredibly busy men who accomplished extraordinary things by being ruthlessly efficient with their time. Men who would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to work on their passions before their regular jobs. Men who used every spare moment to read, study, and improve themselves. Men who understood that an hour here and an hour there, accumulated over years, adds up to something massive. He's got this powerful message about how most people waste enormous amounts of time without even realizing it. Those few minutes scrolling, those hours of idle conversation, those evenings spent on entertainment that adds nothing to your life, all of that accumulates. If you could reclaim just an hour a day and use it productively, that's 365 hours a year, which is over 15 full days. Imagine what you could accomplish with an extra 15 days of focused work every year. Now, Smiles isn't saying you should never rest or have fun. He actually emphasizes the importance of recreation and refreshment. But he distinguishes between true recreation, which restores and energizes you, and mindless time wasting, which leaves you drained and regretful. The key is being intentional, being conscious of how you're spending your time and making sure it aligns with your values and goals. Another major theme in the book is the importance of learning and self-education. Smiles is a huge advocate for continuous learning throughout life. He argues that formal education is just the beginning. The real education happens when you take responsibility for your own learning, when you become curious and committed to constantly expanding your knowledge and capabilities. He shares incredible stories of self-educated men who achieved remarkable things despite having little or no formal schooling. Men who taught themselves through books, through observation, through practice and experimentation. These weren't men waiting for someone to teach them. They went out and learned what they needed to know. Smiles talks about the power of books specifically. He calls them the great equalizers because they give everyone access to the wisdom of the greatest minds in history. A poor person with access to a library has the same intellectual resources as a rich person. The difference is whether they choose to use those resources. He encourages everyone to be a reader, to make reading a daily habit. Not just reading for entertainment, though that has its place, but reading to learn, to understand, to expand your perspective. He argues that 15 minutes of reading a day can transform your life over time. Just think about how much knowledge you could absorb if you read for 15 minutes every single day for a year, for 5 years, for a decade. But Smiles is clear that reading alone isn't enough. You have to think about what you read, apply it, test it against your own experience. Passive consumption of information doesn't do much. Active engagement with ideas, wrestling with them, trying to implement them, that's where the real learning happens. The book then dives deep into the subject of character development through adversity. This is one of Smiles' most powerful insights. He argues that difficulties, obstacles, and even failures are actually essential for developing strong character. When everything comes easy, you don't develop resilience, resourcefulness, or determination. It's the hard times that forge those qualities. He uses the metaphor of how pressure creates diamonds. Coal subjected to immense pressure over time becomes something precious and beautiful. In the same way, human character is refined and strengthened through the pressure of adversity. The very things we try to avoid, struggle, failure, hardship, are the things that make us capable of great achievement. Smiles provides example after example of great men who faced enormous obstacles and used them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Men who were born into poverty and used it as motivation to succeed. Men who failed in business and learned lessons that led to later success. Men who faced criticism and opposition and developed the courage to trust their own judgment. The key isn't to seek out suffering for its own sake. The key is to embrace the inevitable challenges of life as opportunities for growth rather than as excuses for giving up. When you face a setback, you have a choice. You can let it defeat you, or you can let it develop you. One choice leads to weakness and bitterness. The other leads to strength and wisdom. Smiles is particularly passionate about the danger of making excuses. He absolutely tears apart the tendency people have to blame their circumstances for their failures. Born poor, others have risen from poverty. Lack education, others have taught themselves. Face discrimination, others have overcome it. Whatever excuse you might offer, Smiles can point to someone who faced the same obstacle and succeeded anyway. This isn't about being harsh or unsympathetic. Smiles acknowledges that circumstances matter, and that some people face much harder challenges than others. His point is that dwelling on circumstances and using them as excuses doesn't help you. It actually hurts you by robbing you of agency and power. When you make excuses, you're essentially saying that external factors control your life. When you take responsibility, you're claiming the power to change things. The book spends considerable time on the importance of money management and financial prudence. Smiles argues that how you handle money is a reflection of your character and has enormous implications for your freedom and success in life. He's not advocating for miserliness or obsessing over wealth. He's advocating for living within your means, avoiding debt, and having the discipline to save and invest. He points out that many people who earn good incomes remain poor because they spend everything they make or even more than they make. Meanwhile, people with much smaller incomes build wealth through careful management and consistent saving. The difference isn't how much comes in, it's how much you keep and what you do with it. Smiles is absolutely ruthless about debt. He sees going into debt for consumption as a form of slavery, a surrender of your future freedom for present gratification. He argues that debt robs you of peace of mind, limits your options, and forces you to work for your creditors rather than for yourself. The only exception he makes is for debt that is an investment in something productive, like a business or education that will increase your earning power. He advocates for the habit of saving a portion of every income, no matter how small. Even if you can only save a tiny amount at first, the habit itself is valuable. It develops discipline, it creates a cushion for emergencies, and over time, it accumulates into something significant. Many fortunes, he notes, were built starting with tiny amounts that were consistently saved and wisely invested. There's also a strong emphasis on the importance of integrity and honesty in all dealings. Smiles argues that a good reputation is more valuable than money, and that it's built through consistent, honest behavior over time. One act of dishonesty can destroy a reputation that took years to build. He shares stories of businessmen who succeeded in large part because of their reputation for honesty. People trusted them, wanted to work with them, and gave them opportunities, specifically because they were known to be reliable and ethical. On the flip side, he shares cautionary tales of people who tried to get ahead through dishonest means and ultimately destroyed themselves. Smiles makes the case that honesty isn't just morally right, it's practically beneficial. Dishonesty might seem to offer short-term advantages, but it always catches up with you eventually. The anxiety of maintaining lies, the damaged relationships, the destroyed reputation, it all outweighs whatever temporary gain you might have achieved. He extends this principle to all aspects of character: being punctual, keeping your word, fulfilling your obligations, treating others fairly. All of these aren't just nice things to do. They're investments in your future success because they build trust, and trust is the foundation of all human cooperation and commerce. The book includes an extended discussion of the importance of role models and heroes. Smiles believes that biography is incredibly valuable because it shows us what human beings are capable of achieving. When you read about great men and women who overcame obstacles and accomplished remarkable things, it expands your sense of what's possible for yourself. He argues that we should be selective about our heroes, choosing people who embody the qualities we want to develop rather than people who are merely famous or popular. The question isn't whether someone is well known, but whether they're worthy of emulation. What values did they demonstrate? What did they overcome? What did they contribute? Smiles provides dozens of biographical sketches throughout the book, telling the stories of inventors, artists, scientists, businessmen, and others who exemplified the principles he's teaching. These aren't abstract lessons, they're concrete examples of real people who lived these principles and reaped the rewards. He's particularly drawn to stories of people who started with nothing. Men who were born into poverty, who lacked education, who faced tremendous obstacles, but who through character and effort rose to achieve great things. These stories serve a dual purpose. First, they inspire by showing what's possible. Second, they eliminate excuses by demonstrating that success isn't reserved for the privileged. One of the biographical subjects he returns to repeatedly is Josiah Wedgwood, the famous pottery manufacturer. Wedgwood was born into a family of potters but started with very little. Through innovation, persistence, and excellence in his craft, he built an internationally renowned business. What impresses Smiles about Wedgwood isn't just his business success, but his character. He was known for treating his workers well, for constantly seeking to improve his products, and for maintaining the highest standards of integrity. Another favorite is George Stephenson, the railway pioneer mentioned earlier. Stephenson's story is particularly powerful because he was essentially self-educated. He learned to read as an adult, taught himself mathematics and engineering, and went on to create innovations that transformed the world. His life demonstrates that lack of formal education is no barrier if you're committed to learning and willing to put in the work. Smiles also discusses the importance of work-life balance, though he doesn't use that exact term. He talks about the importance of having interests outside of work, of cultivating your mind and spirit, of maintaining relationships. He warns against becoming so consumed by work or ambition that you neglect the other aspects of life that make it worth living. He's particularly insistent on the importance of physical health and recreation. A sound body supports a sound mind, he argues. If you neglect your physical well-being in pursuit of success, you're ultimately undermining your ability to achieve. Regular exercise, adequate sleep, proper nutrition. These aren't luxuries or distractions from important work. They're essential maintenance that keeps you functioning at your best. Similarly, he talks about the importance of cultivating relationships and being part of a community. Humans aren't meant to be isolated. We need connection, friendship, love. Success that comes at the cost of all meaningful relationships isn't really success at all, it's just lonely achievement. Smiles discusses the role of marriage and family extensively. He sees a good marriage as one of the most important factors in a man's success and happiness. A supportive, wise partner can encourage you in difficulties, celebrate your successes, and provide perspective when you need it. A poor choice of partner can drag you down and make success nearly impossible. He encourages young people to be very thoughtful about marriage, to choose based on character rather than superficial attractions. The person you marry will influence nearly every aspect of your life for decades. Choose someone whose values align with yours, who will be a true partner in building a good life together. The book also addresses the importance of giving back and contributing to society. Smiles argues that success isn't just about personal achievement and accumulation. The most meaningful success involves using your capabilities to benefit others and improve the world around you. He shares examples of successful men who used their wealth and influence for philanthropic purposes. Men who built schools, supported hospitals, created libraries, and otherwise contributed to the common good. This wasn't just generosity. It was a recognition that we're all interconnected and that improving society benefits everyone, including ourselves. But Smiles is clear that you don't need to be wealthy to contribute. You can contribute through your daily work if you do it with excellence and integrity. You can contribute by being a good neighbor, a good parent, a good citizen. You can contribute by sharing knowledge, by mentoring younger people, by volunteering your time and skills. He argues that a life focused solely on personal gain and pleasure is ultimately empty and unsatisfying. Humans need purpose that extends beyond themselves. We need to feel that our existence matters, that we're contributing something meaningful. This sense of purpose is actually essential for long-term happiness and fulfillment. Throughout the book, Smiles emphasizes the power of small actions accumulated over time. He's constantly pointing out that great achievements aren't usually the result of one big dramatic effort. They're the result of small efforts repeated consistently day after day, year after year. It's the compound effect of disciplined action over time. This is both encouraging and challenging. It's encouraging because it means you don't need to make massive changes all at once. You don't need to completely overhaul your life overnight. Small improvements, small steps in the right direction, those are enough if you maintain them. It's challenging because it requires patience and consistency, which are harder than enthusiasm and dramatic gestures. Smiles uses the metaphor of drops of water wearing away stone. Each individual drop accomplishes nothing noticeable, but thousands of drops over time can reshape rock. In the same way, each day's effort might seem insignificant on its own, but years of daily effort transform you and your circumstances in profound ways. He talks about the importance of beginning, of taking that first step even when you don't feel ready or fully prepared. So many people never accomplish anything because they're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect circumstances. But perfection never comes. The successful people are the ones who start where they are, with what they have, and figure things out as they go. Smiles addresses the fear of failure directly. He argues that failure is inevitable on the path to any significant achievement. The question isn't whether you'll fail, but how you'll respond when you do. Will you let it stop you, or will you learn from it and keep going? Every successful person he profiles failed repeatedly before succeeding. The difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't let failure be the end of the story. He makes the point that failure is actually valuable because it teaches lessons that success can't. When things go wrong, you learn what doesn't work. You learn where your weaknesses are. You learn how to adapt and improve. Each failure, if you approach it with the right mindset, makes your eventual success more likely. This ties into his broader message about resilience and mental toughness. Life will knock you down repeatedly, that's guaranteed. The critical skill is getting back up, dusting yourself off, and continuing forward. This isn't about being immune to discouragement or disappointment. It's about feeling those things and moving forward anyway. Smiles also discusses the importance of attention to detail and thoroughness. He argues that excellence comes from caring about even the small things, from refusing to be satisfied with good enough. The men who achieve mastery in their fields are the ones who sweat the details, who aren't content until everything is as good as they can possibly make it. He uses examples from various craftsmen and professionals who were known for their meticulous attention to quality. These weren't people who cut corners or did the minimum required. They took pride in their work and wanted everything they produced to be excellent. This reputation for quality became their greatest asset, leading to success and respect. This principle applies regardless of your field or occupation. Whether you're a craftsman or a professional, a businessman or an artist, the commitment to doing things thoroughly and well separates the exceptional from the mediocre. It might take more time, more effort, but the results speak for themselves. Smiles talks about the importance of concentration and focus. He observes that successful people tend to focus their energies rather than scattering them. Instead of dabbling in many things, they commit deeply to one or a few areas and develop real mastery. This concentrated effort produces far better results than divided attention. He warns against the temptation to constantly chase new opportunities or interests. There's value in some exploration, especially when you're young and figuring out your path. But at some point, you need to commit, to dig deep in one direction rather than scratching the surface in many directions. Depth beats breadth when it comes to achievement. The book includes substantial discussion about the importance of courage, both physical and moral. Physical courage, the ability to face danger without being paralyzed by fear, is admirable. But Smiles argues that moral courage is even more important and more rare. Moral courage is the ability to stand up for what's right even when it's unpopular, even when it costs you something, even when everyone around you is going the other direction. He provides examples of people who demonstrated moral courage by speaking uncomfortable truths, by refusing to compromise their principles for profit or popularity, by standing alone when necessary. These people often faced ridicule and opposition in their time, but history vindicated them, and they earned lasting respect. Smiles argues that this kind of courage is essential for leadership and for living with integrity. If you're not willing to stand up for what you believe is right, if you always bend to social pressure, or take the easy path, you might avoid conflict, but you'll lose yourself in the process. And you certainly won't accomplish anything meaningful because every significant achievement requires going against the grain at some point. The book addresses the relationship between wealth and happiness in a nuanced way. Smiles isn't anti-wealth. He thinks financial success is fine and that there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve your material circumstances. But he's very clear that wealth alone doesn't produce happiness, and that many wealthy people are miserable, while many people of modest means are quite content. What matters isn't how much money you have, but the quality of your character, the strength of your relationships, the sense of purpose in your life, and the feeling that you're living according to your values. These things produce genuine satisfaction and peace of mind. Money can make life more comfortable and give you more options, but it can't buy these deeper sources of fulfillment. Smiles warns against sacrificing the things that actually matter, like health, relationships, and integrity, in pursuit of wealth. People do this all the time. They work themselves to exhaustion, neglect their families, compromise their principles, all to accumulate money. And then they discover that the money doesn't compensate for what they lost along the way. He advocates for what we might now call enough. Figure out what's truly sufficient for your needs and a bit beyond for security and comfort, and then don't sacrifice everything else to accumulate more than that. There's a point of diminishing returns where additional wealth adds very little to your life quality but costs you dearly in terms of what you give up to get it. Throughout the book, Smiles returns again and again to the central theme that character is destiny. Your circumstances at birth, your level of talent, your opportunities, all of these matter to some degree. But they're not determinative. What determines the trajectory of your life is your character, the internal qualities you develop and maintain. He argues that if you develop the right character traits, industry, perseverance, integrity, self-discipline, courage, success in some form becomes nearly inevitable. Maybe not the exact success you envision, but success nonetheless. You'll accomplish meaningful things, earn respect, build a good life. On the flip side, if you lack these character traits, no amount of talent or opportunity will help you. You'll squander whatever advantages you have. You'll fail not because circumstances defeated you, but because you defeated yourself through weakness of character. This is empowering because it puts the locus of control inside you. You can't control what family you're born into, what era you live in, what talents you naturally possess. But you can control your effort, your choices, your responses to circumstances. You can decide what kind of person you're going to be, and that decision, maintained consistently over time, shapes everything. Smiles concludes the book by emphasizing that the principles he's outlined aren't just for extraordinary people pursuing exceptional achievements, they're for everyone. Every person, regardless of station in life, can benefit from developing strong character, working diligently, persevering through difficulties, and living with integrity. The goal isn't necessarily to become famous or wealthy. The goal is to live well, to develop your capabilities, to contribute something positive, to look back at the end of your life with satisfaction rather than regret. These principles lead to that outcome regardless of the specific form your success takes. He makes one final crucial point: starting is what matters. You might read all of this and feel inspired but then do nothing with it. The information is worthless if it doesn't lead to action. So don't wait. Don't put it off. Start today, right now, with one small step in the direction of the person you want to become. Maybe that's waking up an hour earlier tomorrow to work on something important. Maybe it's finally starting that book you've been meaning to read. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's just keeping one promise to yourself that you've been breaking. Whatever it is, start. Because small actions taken consistently are how transformation happens. The beauty of Smiles' message is its universality and timelessness. These principles worked in 1859, they work throughout the 20th century, and they work today in 2025. Human nature hasn't changed. The fundamentals of success and fulfillment haven't changed. Circumstances, technology, culture, those things change constantly. But the internal qualities that lead to a life well lived remain the same. What makes this book so powerful is that it's not theoretical. It's grounded in countless real examples of real people who applied these principles and transformed their lives. Smiles isn't asking you to trust him blindly. He's showing you evidence, story after story, demonstrating that these principles work. And here's the thing that's both challenging and liberating about this message: it's all on you. You can't blame your parents, your education, your circumstances, or your bad luck. Those things might make the journey harder, but they don't determine the destination. You determine the destination through your choices and your character. This is challenging because it removes the comfort of excuses. You can't tell yourself that you would have succeeded if only circumstances were different. You have to acknowledge that what's holding you back is primarily yourself, your choices, your habits, your character weaknesses. That's uncomfortable to confront. But it's also incredibly liberating because it means you have power. If external circumstances controlled everything, you'd be helpless, just a leaf blown by winds you can't control. But if character determines outcomes, and you can develop your character, then you have agency. You can change your trajectory starting today. The men's Smiles profiles weren't superhuman. They were regular people who decided to develop themselves, who committed to working hard and living with integrity, who persevered when things got difficult. If they could do it, why not you? What's actually stopping you other than your own choices? This is the question Smiles would pose to you, not in a harsh or judgmental way, but as a genuine inquiry. What's stopping you from becoming the person you want to be? What's stopping you from pursuing your goals with real dedication? What's stopping you from developing the character traits that would serve you well? Really think about that. And then recognize that whatever the answer is, it's probably something within your power to change. The principles in this book have helped millions of people over more than a century and a half. They've helped people rise from poverty to prosperity, from obscurity to significance, from weakness to strength. Not because the principles are magic, but because they're true. They reflect how human psychology and social dynamics actually work. When you work hard, you get better at things and produce more value. When you persevere, you eventually overcome obstacles that stop others. When you develop self-discipline, you can do things others can't. When you act with integrity, people trust and respect you. When you manage money wisely, you build security and options. These aren't mysterious secrets. They're straightforward cause and effect relationships. The reason most people don't apply them isn't because they don't know them. We all basically know this stuff. The reason is that application requires effort, discomfort, and delayed gratification. It's easier to sleep in than wake up early to work on your goals. It's easier to spend money on enjoyment now than save it for the future. It's easier to give up when things get hard than push through. It's easier to compromise your values than stand firm and face consequences. Smiles is essentially asking, are you willing to do what's difficult in the short term to create a better life in the long term? Are you willing to invest in yourself, in your character, in your capabilities? Are you willing to trade comfort now for success later? Because here's the thing, you're going to have difficulty either way. You can have the difficulty of discipline, or you can have the difficulty of regret. You can have the discomfort of pushing yourself to grow, or you can have the discomfort of knowing you never reached your potential. Choose your hard. The self-help philosophy that Smiles presents isn't about rugged individualism that ignores social responsibility or interdependence. He's not saying we don't need community or shouldn't help each other. He's saying that the help that matters most is help that empowers people to help themselves. Teaching someone to fish rather than giving them fish. Creating conditions where people can develop their capabilities rather than creating dependency. And he's saying that waiting for others to solve your problems or create your success is a losing strategy. Even if help comes, it won't benefit you much if you haven't developed the character and capabilities to make use of it. The soil has to be prepared before seeds can grow. This book is fundamentally optimistic about human potential. Smiles genuinely believes that most people are capable of far more than they achieve, that the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is primarily effort and character rather than inherent ability. This means your current circumstances don't limit your future possibilities. Where you are now doesn't determine where you can end up, but that optimism comes with responsibility. If you're capable of more, if your circumstances don't excuse failure, then you have to take ownership of your life. You can't be passive, can't wait for things to happen to you. You have to be the active agent in your own life, making choices and taking actions that move you toward the life you want. The question Smiles would want you to ask yourself is this: a year from now, 5 years, From now, when you look back at this moment, what do you wish you had started today? What habits do you wish you had formed? What projects do you wish you had begun? What character traits do you wish you had worked on developing? And then the follow-up question, if that's what you'll wish you had done, why not start now? Why wait? Every day you delay is a day you could have been making progress. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. This is the essence of self-help, as Smiles conceived it: taking responsibility, making a plan, starting immediately, persisting through difficulties, developing your character, and gradually building the life you want through consistent effort over time. It's not flashy or exciting, it's just effective. The legacy of this book is immense. It literally created the self-improvement industry. Every personal development book, every motivational speech, every life coach, they all owe a debt to Samuel Smiles and this book. The core ideas have been repackaged and resold thousands of times in different forms, but they all trace back to this source. What's remarkable is how well these ideas have held up. We live in a radically different world than Victorian England, but the principles still work, because they're not about specific techniques or tactics that become obsolete. They're about fundamental human qualities and behaviors that remain relevant regardless of context. You don't need to agree with every single thing Smiles says to benefit from this book. Some of his examples are dated, some of his cultural assumptions reflect his time period, and you might quibble with certain points. That's fine. Take what resonates, what you can apply, what helps you move forward. The core message transcends any particular detail, and that core message is this: you have more power than you think. You're more capable than you believe. The life you want is more achievable than it seems, but none of that potential matters if you don't act on it. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Understanding without application is just mental exercise. So here's what I want you to take from this book, from Samuel Smiles, wisdom that has stood the test of over 160 years. First, stop waiting. Stop waiting for perfect conditions, for more confidence, for better circumstances, for someone to give you permission or opportunity. Start now with what you have, where you are. The perfect moment doesn't exist. This moment, right now, is all you've got. Second, embrace difficulty. When things get hard, when you face obstacles, when you fail, recognize that this is where growth happens. This is where character is forged. You're not being punished by difficulty, you're being developed by it. The struggle is the point, not something to be avoided on the way to the point. Third, focus on what you can control. You can't control your past, your starting point, other people's actions, or many circumstances you'll face. But you can control your effort, your attitude, your choices, your responses. Pour your energy into what you can actually influence instead of resenting what you can't change. Fourth, think long-term. Every choice you make is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Every action is either moving you toward your goals or away from them. Stop trading your future for temporary comfort or pleasure. Start making choices your future self will thank you for. Fifth, build character above all else. Skills matter, knowledge matters, connections matter, but character matters most. Integrity, perseverance, self-discipline, courage, these are the foundations of everything else. Without them, any success you achieve will be fragile and unsatisfying. With them, even setbacks become stepping stones. Sixth, remember that small actions compound. You don't need to make massive changes overnight. You don't need to suddenly become a different person. Just be 1% better today than yesterday. Read for 15 minutes. Work on your goal for 30 minutes. Keep one promise to yourself. Small, consistent actions over time create extraordinary results. And finally, understand that your life is your responsibility. Not your parents' responsibility, not society's responsibility, not the government's responsibility. Yours. That might feel heavy, but it's actually the most empowering truth you can accept. Because if it's your responsibility, then you have the power to change it. Look, life is hard for everyone. Nobody gets through unscathed. Nobody has it easy, even if it looks like they do from the outside. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges and setbacks and moments of doubt. You will. Everyone does. The question is, what kind of person will you become through those experiences? Will you let difficulty defeat you, embitter you, diminish you? Or will you let it develop you, strengthen you, deepen you? Will you make excuses or will you make progress? Will you blame circumstances or will you change yourself? Will you wait for rescue or will you rescue yourself? Samuel Smiles looked at the men who achieved great things and realized they weren't fundamentally different from everyone else. They just made different choices. They worked when others rested. They persevered when others quit. They disciplined themselves when others indulged. They took responsibility when others made excuses. And those choices, accumulated over time, made all the difference. You have the same opportunity they had. Not the same circumstances maybe, but the same fundamental choice about what kind of person you'll be and what you'll do with your life. You can drift along, letting circumstances push you around, never quite living up to your potential, always wondering what might have been. Or you can take charge, develop your character, pursue your goals with dedication, and create something meaningful. The tools are all here. The principles are clear. The examples are abundant. What's required now is decision and action. Decide who you want to become. Decide what you want to achieve. And then start taking the daily actions that will get you there. Not perfect actions, not huge dramatic gestures, just consistent effort in the right direction. There will be days when you don't feel like it. Work anyway. There will be times when progress seems impossible. Persist anyway. There will be moments when you doubt yourself. Continue anyway. Because the person who keeps going when it's hard, who maintains their discipline when it's uncomfortable, who stays true to their values when it's costly, that person becomes unstoppable. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to figure everything out right now. You don't need to have your whole life planned. You just need to know your next step and take it. And then the next step will become clear, and then the next. One step at a time, one day at a time, you build a life. Years from now, you'll look back at this moment. And you'll either be grateful that you started, that you committed, that you did the work to become who you're capable of being, or you'll regret that you didn't, that you let fear or comfort or excuses hold you back. Which feeling do you want to have? The power is in your hands. It always has been. You just have to claim it, own it, and use it. Stop telling yourself stories about why you can't. Stop believing that success is for other people. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. Start right now, today, this moment, with one small action toward the person you want to become. Samuel Smiles wrote this book over 160 years ago, but he wrote it for you. He wrote it for every person who wonders if they have what it takes, who doubts whether they can change their circumstances, who feels stuck or limited or uncertain. And his answer, proven by countless examples across generations, is a resounding yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you have what it takes. Yes, your life can be different. But only if you commit to the work of self-improvement, self-discipline, and self-help. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You've taken the time to learn these principles, to understand what creates success and fulfillment. Now take the next step. Apply them, live them, become them. Your future self is counting on you. The world needs what you're capable of contributing, and deep down, you know you're meant for more than you've been settling for. So go out there and prove it, not to anyone else but to yourself. Show yourself what you're capable of when you really commit, when you develop your character, when you refuse to quit no matter what. Take Samuel Smiles' wisdom and use it as fuel for your transformation. Let it inspire you, guide you, and push you toward your potential. This is your one life. You don't get a practice round. You don't get a do-over. This is it. Make it count. Make it meaningful. Make it yours. The principles are here. The power is within you. All that's left is the choice to begin. Make that choice. Make it now. And never look back with regret. Only forward with purpose. If you found value in this summary from Audiobook Gist, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear this message today. Because the principles in self-help aren't just for you, they're for anyone ready to take control of their life and build something meaningful. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, the power to change your life has always been inside you. You just have to use it.